Caspond raised a hand to quell the venting of their spleens. We are at war now. Her talents are still useful. Let us leave her disposition to the future Holy King. Quite a few people were upset by Remedio's attitude. Some of them were hiding their fear of her with anger, but others had ulterior motives. Caspond knew this, and he smiled coldly in his heart. Remedios had once been the mailed fist of the previous Holy King and a powerful weapon. Surely someone out there would not want to leave that weapon to the next Holy King. No, all of them might be thinking that for all he knew. Oh, your Highness is correct. This is wartime. However, we won't keep fighting the Demihumans forever. The Count is right. I believe our envoy already mentioned that we managed to come here because we defeated the Demihuman forces. Your Highness. We ought to press our advantage and mount a pursuit. Exactly. We ought to destroy the Demihumans in one fell swoop, so your Highness's achievements may reach more ears. I see. Then, how's Old Purple? The nobles looked at each other, and then Marquis Bedipo spoke on their behalf. The old man seems unwell, so he did not come here with us. The Marquis was the most senior person here, and so the person that he called an old man was an 80-year-old individual who had been appointed one of the 9 colors. As a great noble of the south with the rank of Marquis, he had been granted that color in recognition of his loyalty to the royal family and his achievements. Not all the 9 colors had earned their position because of their fighting strength. Much like Purple, some of them had gained their title because of some great contribution. For instance, there was a duchess who had been appointed blue due to her fame as a composite artist. As Caspond pondered Marquis Bedipo's reply, he sensed for a moment that the other man was not hiding anything, and Caspond smiled coldly in his heart again. Well, he already knew this, he was simply confirming that reaction with his own eyes. I see. It would seem that your opinions coincide with mine. Caspond outlined his plan to ruin Jaldabaoth's scheme by slaughtering the Demihumans. However, what will we do if Jaldabaoth shows up? Is Jaldabaoth such a mighty demon? I hear even the Captain Dono could not protect Her Majesty. Count Renero had never faced Jaldabaoth before, which was why he was asking such an innocent question. Caspond responded in a somber tone. He is extremely powerful. We asked the Sorcerer King to face him, and his battle with Jaldabaoth was truly intense. The Sorcerer King? Do you mean that undead king? It was only to be expected that they would exclaim in surprise. Oya. Did you not hear about that? I see. So you called upon the help of another country's army, my prince? That is very bad. Not an army. Just the Sorcerer King. The nobles froze with an A on their lips. It took some time before they stirred again. The Sorcerer King, by himself. The one and only king, the one who stands at the pinnacle of his nation, came over by himself. Caspond nodded in response to Count Randall's question. How could that be? That's impossible, right? There's no way such a king would exist. Did he not have his armies on hand? It makes no sense at all, the gathered people muttered. Some wondered if this was some kind of scheme. However, Caspond denied them with the finality of an executioner's axe. Though you might say so, it is the truth. All we can do is accept it. In addition, if the Sorcerer King had brought his armies with him, then they would have moved out the moment he lost his duel against Jaldabaoth. He lost. I don't get it. They say he's one of the undead, so could it be that even his brains rotted away? However, is this not very bad? It is. However, one of the envoys who requested the Sorcerer King to come was Remedios. I believe handing her over to gain the forgiveness of the other party will be a necessity, as are other diplomatic measures. Will that settle matters? Now that you mention it, the Sorcerer's Kingdom is a nation within the borders of the kingdom. In that case, they will not be able to cross the kingdom's borders to reach us. Does that mean we must be on alert once the kingdom is destroyed? They could not understand what was going on, and the nobles all clutched their heads. It was as though they were thinking about what to do if the sun rose in the west. Therefore, they decided to shelve the matter for the time being. Well, let's put that aside for now. What are your future plans, Your Highness? I would like to retake the capital. And I would like to do this as soon as possible. In that case, we will surely aid you. Your Highness will become the hero who saved this nation from Jaldabaoth. The Demihuman army which invaded our nation was 100,000 strong. They've been culled to around 30,000 strong now. If we rally the people of this city and the soldiers we brought, we'll be able to beat them easily. Your Highness, the day will soon come when they call you Your Majesty. Caspond faced the flattering nobles and put an expression of his face that said they had hit the nail on the head. Yumu. I will not forget to be grateful for the help all of you have given me. What are you saying? We are only doing our duty to the Holy Kingdom and the royal family. In his heart, Caspond smiled in a completely different way. Very well. Then, gentlemen, let us make ready to take back the capital. A week after they had joined up with the armies of the southern nobles, they finished their preparations and began a new advance. Their next target was the city of Prart, to the west of Kalinsha. Nia could not hide her unease as she wobbled on the back of a horse. While it made perfect sense to seize this chance to exterminate the Demihumans while Jaldabaoth's wounds had not yet healed, it did not sit well with her feelings. She wanted to increase the number of supporters and put her efforts into finalizing the preparations for the rescue effort that would be sent out in search of the Sorcerer King. That said, Nia knew from first-hand experience with Remedios that a commander's irritation was closely linked to morale. She could not take her frustrations out on her subordinates. Nia took several deep breaths to calm herself, and her lungs filled with cool air. While spring was close, one could still feel winter in the air. After regaining her composure, Nia surveyed the army which was going forth. There were about 95,000 people here, in a column that seemed to stretch on forever. Their forces were composed of roughly 30,000 men from the southern nobles and 65,000 men from the Liberation Army. Incidentally, of the remaining 20,000 men from the south, 10,000 were assigned to secure their axis of retreat, and the other 10,000 were resting in Kalinsha. Among them were 2,000 archers led by Nia, all of whom belonged to the rescue corps. Facing them were the remnants of the Demihuman army, which were estimated at around 30,000 strong, so there was an overwhelming disparity in numbers. However, each individual Demihuman was stronger than a human being, and more importantly, they had to be on guard against Jaldabaoth, so they could not be careless even with their numerical advantage. They had embarked on this operation under the assumption that Jaldabaoth was still wounded and unable to take action. If Jaldabaoth had fully recovered, then they would be marching to their deaths. Her heart beat like an alarm clock. Should I have prioritized the Sorcerer King's rescue over everything else? Nia wondered. Her thoughts began to go around in circles. Baraja-sama, do you require information from the corps members and other units? Bildren had walked his horse beside her before asking his question, and Nia blinked in response. She had no idea what he was talking about. After some thought, Nia finally got it, and she hurriedly waved the hand which was not holding the reins of her horse. No, we don't need to do spy-like stuff like that. After all, we're comrades marching towards the same goal. Oh, I expected nothing less of you, Baraja-sama. As the spokesperson for His Majesty, your words are most kind. Although her face is scary. After Bildren praised her, Shizu spoke up from behind Nia. Since Shizu could not ride, the two of them shared a saddle. Even if Shizu was her senior, and one who was worthy of her respect, it was still a little annoying to hear her keep harping on that over and over again. Should I just have her walk? Shizu's stride and stamina exceeded those of a regular human being. She was riding only because it would be rude to let one of the Sorcerer King's subordinates walk. Bildren heard this, but he did not help her at all. He neither supported nor rejected that statement. He probably could not deny those words because they had been spoken by a subordinate of the Sorcerer King, and more importantly, because they were obviously true. Well, I guess he can't just say no. After all, I wouldn't have to wear the visor if I weren't like that. That said, Nia was a girl. Even if it was true, and even if people had said it enough that she had become used to it, having people say her face was scary still hurt. Now then, Baraja-sama. A messenger came from headquarters. Our pioneers have sighted the Demihuman army. Their numbers are estimated at 30,000. Therefore, we will be taking formation here. The messenger returned to headquarters after relaying that message. What do you make of this? That's fine. If you feel it needs to be done, then it should be alright. Bildren was doing very well as her executive officer. Still, do the Demihumans really want to fight a field battle? The Demihumans had a mere third of the Holy Kingdom's numbers. While each of them was a superior individual combatant, surely they would have no chance if they fought on an open field. If they defended a city instead, they would be able to make full use of the city's defenses, and make up for the shortfall in fighting strength. In any event, it would be extremely difficult to win once Jaldabaoth recovered. The Demihumans' best strategy ought to be buying time. Either that, or setting up areas inaccessible to cavalry and limiting the scope of the fighting. So we're set to fight in an open field, then? Yes. Just so. There are no woods nearby where the enemy could hide ambushers. Rather, there aren't even any hills, so surely they would be squabbling over where to form up. Why in a place like that? Bildren prefaced his response to Shizu's question with "It's most likely that they're preparing to run away, I think." Running away. That's right, Baraja-sama. Just like how the Zerns betrayed him, not all the Demihumans are devoted to Jaldabaoth. If they want to flee even if it means betraying Jaldabaoth, then the people who want to live would not hull up inside a city, but choose to fight on open ground. That's because disengaging will be difficult if they're defending a city. Bildren's eyes trembled as they went dark, and it made Nia shiver. Just as Nia wondered if she ought to use the ability she had recently developed, the darkness gradually ebbed away, and his eyes regained their usual shine. Since the fighting was about to start, maybe it might be good to quell the hatred inside him. I see. Shizu nodded in approval, and Bildren simply replied, "That is probably the case." Bildren's words made a lot of sense. Not even Jaldabaoth could know for sure if they were planning to die in a field battle or run away. If that was the case, it might be better to wait until nightfall, which would afford the demihumans a chance to flee, and thus reduce the amount of people who would die for nothing. Nia knew this, but she did not say it. The demihumans had caused too much woe to the people of this nation. While the demihumans under His Majesty could probably be forgiven, they're going to kill all the other demihumans besides them. There had even been rumors that people who advocated coexistence with demihumans or spoken up for them had been secretly killed or openly lynched. In truth, when the Sorcerer King had brought her along to liberate prison camps, she had witnessed several human corpses which looked like they had been lynched. Apparently, they were people who had tried to suck up to the demihumans. Barajasama. Well, I do not know how headquarters intends to deploy us. Shall we gather all the unit commanders first? No, I just need a rough idea of where they've been allocated. No matter where they've been assigned, I believe everyone will know what to do. The position of Nia and the others would be determined by how the Holy Kingdom's leadership wanted to deploy Shizu, who was hugging Nia around the waist. If there were strong foes among the demihumans, then Shizu would be sent to the front lines in order to make use of her. If she was to be used as a normal archer, then she would be positioned in the middle of the formation, or perhaps she would be stationed with the other archers. If they did not want to let Shizu, a subordinate of the Sorcerer King, achieve too much, then they would place her all the way in the rear. Nia predicted that they would remain in the rear until they had made contact. 3 hours later, she realized that this was the right answer.